Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Rebecca, and I'm going to tell you about my favourite white blood cell. And you're going to ask, why have I got a fluffy toy, some pom-poms, some sweets, and some random cups? I promise you, it will all make sense in about 5 minutes. So, my favourite cell is the macrophage, and he's an awesome dude. Without him, no living creature can survive. So his name generates from the Greek macro, meaning big, and phage, meaning eater. And that's exactly what he does. He's a big eater. And without him, we'll get loads of bacteria, which is our pom-poms, that will just keep dividing and growing and taking over. And we need this guy to come along and eat them. So macrophages are found in lots of different organs, but the one that we're most interested in is the lung. And so when you've got a chest infection, something like that, these guys will come in and they will come and, like the computer game Pac-Man, if you all heard of Pac-Man, exactly the same. So you've got your ghost, i.e. Mr. Macrophage here, who will come along, eat your bacteria, eat them, and hopefully, if it's behaving the way it should, all your bacteria should be eaten and you'll recover. Now, unfortunately, in some lung diseases, so things like chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, also known as emphysema, you might have heard of it, you might not, macrophages don't seem to do what they're supposed to do. So we know in healthy people, these guys will quite happily eat bacteria of all shapes, sizes, different ones with different things on them to be recognised as different things. If you're a smoker, they're not quite so good at it. If you're a COPD, they're really not very good at it. So instead of them being there going, yep, I'm going to have bacteria there, bacteria here, I'll wander over here and get that one, they just sort of sit there and go, nope, don't fancy doing it. And a lot of our research is looking at, firstly, why do they not do what they're supposed to do? And secondly, what can we do to them to make them do what they're supposed to do? And you might say, well, that's all very well, but what's the problem? Why do we need them to do what they're going to do? Well, we come back to our bacteria. If we start off with 3 bacteria and we don't have these guys coming in and eating them and getting rid of them, after a little while, you're going to have more bacteria and more bacteria and more bacteria. And before you know it, your lungs are colonised and you have a pretty bad chest infection. And you might get antibiotics for that, but without your macrophages doing their job, you're not going to recover as quickly, it's not going to be as efficient. So to demonstrate this, I'm going to require 3 volunteers, of which you will end up taking some of these sweeties home. Who would like to volunteer? Go on, lovely. So the aim is, we have 3 mini versions of our macrophages. And we've got one that represents one from somebody who's a non-smoker. It's going to go here. One that represents a macrophage from somebody who's a smoker, and he's going to go here. And one that represents one that comes from somebody with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD. Now, when you come up to do your volunteering, the aim is each macrophage has a different size spoon related to it. So, our healthy one has the biggest spoon because he's best at doing what he does. And our COPD has the smallest spoon because he's not very good at doing what he does. And the aim is, in 10 seconds, you want to transfer as many of the sweets from here into your cup. And hopefully that will give us an idea of what these macrophages actually do when they're behaving themselves and when they're not behaving themselves. So, who would like to come up first, and which one would you like?
I'll do the first.
Lovely. Who would you like?
Well, I've got this thing.
Lovely. So, 1 spoon.
So what I've got to do?
1 cup. You want to transfer as many sweets as you can from here into here in 10 seconds.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
And go. And stop. Lovely. So we can see that, thank you, our COPD macrophage has done some of his job. He's managed to eat some of the bacteria, but we now need to see how that compares to our smoker and our healthy person. So who wants to go next? Go on. You get some sweets at the end of it. And which one would you like? Would you like our non-smoker or our smoker?
I don't mind. If I'm non-smoker, do I get more sweets? Is that how it works?
In theory, yeah. There we go. So you have our green non-smoker, these into there, and your time starts now. And stop. So you can see not only do we end up with more bacteria in the first place, we can do it at a quicker rate. So our healthy macrophages are speedy little guys. They'll go around and they'll eat everything and anything that's in their path, and we'll get more in total. So who would like to be my smoker macrophage? Come on. So exactly the same, transfer sweets from here to here, and you've got 10 seconds to do it in. Ready? Yep. And go. And stop. Lovely. So I think that's, thank you. I think that's very nicely shown that this is what our healthy macrophage can do. This is what happens from somebody who's a smoker, so they can do it, just not quite as quickly and not quite as plentiful as our non-smoker. And our COPD patient can do it, but again, it's a decrease in rate and decrease in the final amount that you've got. So I hope that's given you a little insight as to why this guy is my favourite cell of all time and why we need them. And that's the end of my demonstration.